Hello, hello. Welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm really excited for this topic because posting consistently is something that I preach often, right? I think that it is really the minimum baseline that you need in order to get results from Instagram. Consistent effort equals consistent results. But a question that I get oftentimes from therapists in my DMs is I'm consistently posting, but I'm not getting the results that I want. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? Right. And so, if that's you, today's episode is really going to help you because I get that it can feel super discouraging to be putting in consistent effort, to be spending consistent time on Instagram, to be putting thought into your content and not getting the results that you want. Right? Whether that's you're wanting more engagement on your post, you're wanting more likes, you're wanting more comments and conversations and DMs, if you're wanting to grow your following, or, most importantly, if you're wanting to actually get more clients from Instagram. So, in today's topic, we're going to talk about what other pieces go into marketing on Instagram in order to successfully bring in clients, right? That means we're going to talk about stories, we're going to talk about engagement, the type of content you're posting, actually selling on Instagram, how specific your messaging is, right? Because there's a lot of other things that come into play if you are posting consistently and you're not getting results. And I do want to say that you're not going to see results overnight, even with consistent, really good, really spot on posting. There is a learning curve, both for you as a creator, also for the algorithm, also for the people following you, right? They might just need some time to warm up to the idea of wanting to work with you. But this is really going to help you to get those results in a timeline that feels reasonable when you are doing everything right. And it's not just consistently posting, but consistently posting the right things in the right way with the right strategy to get results. Okay, so let's jump into today's episode. I want to share that it is not just you, right? So this struggle is very, very real. There's a lot of therapists that I see and that I talk to who post consistently but are not getting the results that they see other therapists getting, right? And there's all kinds of things that we can compare ourselves to on social media because a lot of it is quite visible, right? So you can go to a therapist profile and see how many views are they getting on their reels, or how many likes are they getting, or how many comments, or how many followers do they have, right? Are they getting brand deals? Did I see them post a sponsored thing this week? There's lots of information for us to compare. And so if you are seeing other therapists visibly have more success than you, that is okay. I think that that is a really common experience. And you are not alone in that, right? And so it's really hard if you are somebody who's putting in the effort, you have those big goals, and you're not seeing the feedback from your audience, from your clients, from your bank account that this is working, right? That can sort of bum you out and maybe kill a little bit of your motivation to keep going and to keep building that momentum. I do want to say, some people do get results really quickly, but that's not typical. And so it is important not to compare yourself to the really abnormal realities out there. Most people, most content creators, most therapists experience more of a slow burn, right? And so they're implementing these marketing strategies consistently. They're getting, maybe one reel goes viral and they get a few thousand followers from it. And that's amazing. Maybe something takes off and they get a few intro calls, and then things sort of slow down again until the next time that something hits. That is really, really, really normal. And that's actually how things worked for me as well, right? And so, depending on how long you followed me, you may not know this, but I started with 0 followers, just like you did. And now I have 2 big Instagram accounts. At the time of recording this, I have about 90,000 on my Sit with Kelly account, and I think around 40,000 on my Business of Therapy account. But my growth has been pretty slow and steady, relatively speaking. So when I first started my Sit with Kelly Instagram account, which is the account that I was using to fill my caseload with private pay clients, I posted every single day for 3 months. I posted over 100 times in feed before I got my first private pay client. So it was a ton of consistent action before I was able to get those results and that feedback that this was worth it, that this was working, right? It took me a year of posting every single day on that account to hit 10,000 followers. And so my success was not overnight by any means, but relatively speaking, when I look back on it and I'm like, oh, it took me a year of effort to get 10,000 followers, to fill my caseload with private pay clients, to quit my job, to earn $250,000 my first year in private practice, that is still pretty fast, right? So it was worth it. It was like a very reasonable timeline, but I was not somebody who just had like one reel go viral and then all of a sudden I had 10,000 followers or 50,000 followers or something, right? It took time and effort. So in addition to consistency, in addition to sort of like putting in the reps, putting in the time, posting, there are other things that go into making your Instagram marketing effective. So, niching down is really, really, really important. If you are posting content consistently, but it is not specific content, it's not going to land with anybody. And so, it's not going to build like a really strong community of people who feel like, Kelly creates content just for me. Like, I love Kelly's content. Every piece of content relates to me. I want to DM it to my husband. I want to DM it to my girlfriends. I want to save it for later. It's so me. If you're not niching down, no one's going to feel like that, right? It's going to feel really, really bland. And that's going to make it hard for you to get clients from your Instagram. And it's also going to make it hard for you to grow because people may come across your content, right? Sometimes the algorithm is going to show your content to new people, but they're not going to engage with it. They're not going to like it. They're not going to visit your profile and decide to hit follow if your niche is not very clear. Kind of on that same token, we need really clear messaging as well, right? So something that I see a lot of therapists mess up with is their language is way too therapist-y. It's way too professional. It's very bland, right? It's just not interesting or engaging. I think the more specific examples you can give in your content, the better that it's going to be, right? So instead of saying like, POV, whatever, you had an anxious thought and had a panic attack. I don't know. That's like not very specific, right? Okay, so let's say that you are niche down and you know that you work with new moms postpartum, right? That's a pretty specific niche. We also need your messaging to be really clear. So let's say that you do a reel, and we have one in the Reels membership for this week at the time that I'm recording this. It's a sound of like clapping, and so the text on screen is like giving my blank clients a round of applause for blank, right? So if you take that and your messaging is unclear, you might say something like giving, the new moms I work with a round of applause for asking for support postpartum. That is specific. Your niche is clear. I'm clear who you're speaking to, but it doesn't make me feel anything. I'm not like, oh yeah, that's me. That's something that I need to ask for support with. That's something I need to send to my husband or send to my friend who just had a baby, right? It's not specific. Now, if instead we said, giving all the new moms a round of applause who asked their husband for help with a nighttime feed last night, that is really specific, right? And so that is going to, spark conversation. If I have to get up and feed the baby anyways, maybe I should let him sleep, or he went back to work, or send it to my husband. Yes, thank you for doing that. I love you, right? There's all of this more specificity there that really helps your people to relate. And so that messaging clarity is super, super, super important, right? We need to be clear in who we're speaking to and in what we're saying and in what our clients are struggling with. So it's not just asking for support, but it's asking, your husband for help with the nighttime feed. It's, you know, not feeling guilty for hiring a nanny even though you work from home, right? It's a lot more specific in terms of what our clients are dealing with. It's telling your mother-in-law not to kiss the baby, right? It's like we need a lot more specificity in our content, and when we are able to do that, your messaging is going to be so much more clear, and you are going to get so much faster results from Instagram in terms of growth, in terms of engagement, in terms of clients, because people are really going to relate more. Another thing that's really important, aside from consistency, is that you're creating content that is shareable and that is savable, right? And that specificity really, really, really makes content shareable. In order to make savable content, we kind of need to provide some value for people, right? And this could be in the caption. My most saved content is always like the carousel posts, right? So they may not perform super well in terms of the algorithm, but people are saving it and coming back to it because it's the most helpful content that I create. right? So that's really helpful too. The other thing that's really, really important to do is to have clear calls to action to sell your services, right? So you need to tell people how to work with you. And oftentimes I see therapists avoid selling altogether. They're like, I don't want to do it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. As a therapist, I shouldn't be salesy. But if all you're doing is creating content, nobody's going to reach out and ask to work with you, right? You need to tell people, I'm a therapist for new moms, accepting new clients in New Jersey. Schedule a free intro call with me at the link in my bio to work together, right? You need to have that like specificity and that call to action in your content. I recommend putting it at the bottom of like every single caption. I also recommend having it in your bio. And I recommend doing it in stories like 3 to 4 times a week if you are actively working to fill your caseload. It is so, so, so important to actively sell, right? If your goal is to get clients from Instagram, that needs to be like a very important thing on your to-do list in order to convert your audience. Another thing that I think is super important that a lot of therapists don't take the time to do is to prioritize connecting with your community, right? So I know that Instagram can be overwhelming. I know that it's, something that you're doing on top of your existing work, but if you want it to work well, you need to put in more effort into it besides just like checking the box of I created the content, right? Yes, creating the content is important. Yes, showing up consistently is important. But we also want to slow down enough and be like, hey, is my messaging clear here? Is this actually good content? Am I selling here? Am I connecting with my community? Are people getting to know me? And so that is super, super important. Stories are a great place to connect and to build that sort of community feel because it gets to be a lot more casual than your in-feed posts. And also because your stories are really just for the people who've already chosen to follow you. So that can be a great place to talk about your weekend, talk about a home decor project you're doing, talk about, your new favorite coffee recipe or your thoughts on Love is Blind and the new episode that came out. That is super important to build community. And I know that can feel like a little backwards for therapists at times, but you are allowed to do this. I would not recommend like DMing with clients and being like building, new BFFs there or something. But if you have a caseload, like if your goal is to have a caseload of 20 private pay clients, that means that you're going to have hundreds and hundreds or thousands and thousands of other people who are following you on your Instagram page, right? And so you have plenty of people you can build connection and community with and even engage like a little bit in DMs, right? Like DMing with other therapists is so helpful for getting referrals and getting clients from them. Other helping professionals, even people who like reply to your story and they're like, oh my gosh, I watched Love is Blind last night too. And you're like, yes, love it. Like that is totally fine, right? Obviously that person becomes a client. I would talk with them about like stopping the DM situation. But that basic stuff is like totally okay. And it's really important with building connection and community. And even if people aren't DMing you back, that like casual chatty feel where people feel like they're getting to know you, they like you, they're interested in you and what you have to say, that is so, so, so helpful for actually getting clients from Instagram. So if you are stuck with these things, if it has felt hard to niche down, to get better messaging, to get results from your content, I want to share how the Private Practice Academy bundle can really help with this. Because oftentimes I find that when people are posting consistently, if you've been doing it, let's say for 2 or 3 months and you're not getting results yet, just continuing to do the same thing is not going to solve the problem, right? It's not the lack of posts. It's not the lack of consistency or time. It's sort of like the strategy behind it that is getting in the way. And so if that's you and you are stuck, I would really encourage you to consider joining the Private Practice Academy bundle because we can get really clear on your niche together, right? We have a VIP community just for Private Practice Academy alumni where we can, talk about your niche. We can figure it out together because it is really important. Like if your favorite client, let's say, found your Instagram page and they scrolled through your Instagram feed, would they feel like 90% of the content was made for them? If not, we have some work to do with niching down, right? We can look at your bio together and figure out, is it optimized? So that way all those thousands of people who are finding you on Reels every day are actually going to your profile and saying like, oh yes, she's for me. I'm going to go ahead and hit follow. If not, we have some work to do together on your bio. Are people liking and engaging with the content you're posting? Do you have a good idea of how to sell in stories? Do you understand how to pitch your services, how to share that intro call link in a way that feels good? Are you using ads, right? So I teach ads inside of Private Practice Academy, very low cost, $5 a day, but to bring in followers who are seeking a therapist in your area. And then again, going back to stories, are you actually nurturing those people in order to convert the leads that you got from ads into therapy clients? Are you sharing deeply enough so people feel like they're getting to know you? Is your content specific enough so people feel like it's for them? Or is it content that any therapist could post, right? If that is the case, we have some work to do. Are you posting some authority content, right? So I am queen of Reels. You know that I love Reels. I've got my whole Reels membership and everything. But you cannot only post Reels and expect to grow on Instagram. You need carousel posts, right? That is authority content. That is where you are showing that you are an expert. You are not just an influencer or a mom influencer or, a mental health advocate. You are a authority. You are a professional licensed therapist. And having those carousel posts helps to convey that, right? It helps to convey that you are somebody worthy of charging $200, $250, $300 a session. It's a way to give authority. It's a way to help people who discover you through Reels quickly scan your profile and understand, yes, I'm going to get something out of following her, so I want to follow along. I also wanted to share quickly, I was chatting with a Private Practice Academy alumni, Abby Swandle, the other day. Her Instagram is exhale48. She's a trauma therapist in Minnesota. And we were talking about how PPA was sort of like the perfect complement for her in terms of expanding upon what she learned in the Reels membership. So she joined the Reels membership first and got more comfortable with Instagram, let's say. She was posting, she was getting like a few thousand views on things, but she still wasn't getting clients. And she ended up joining Private Practice Academy and things totally shifted for her. So in our VIP coaching calls, she got really clear on her niche, both by me talking with her directly and also seeing how I supported other therapists. She said that that was super helpful. And now she feels way more confident on Instagram because she actually feels like an expert in the things that she's talking about. And she said that fun is like translating over into her therapy work because now she's working with people who she really wants to and she knows exactly how to help. And Abby has less than 500 followers and has already gotten several full pay, cash paying clients who have found her on Instagram. And that's really the difference between like the Reels membership is helpful of like, let's get comfortable posting on Instagram. Let me make my content ideas faster. Let me make content easier. But if you don't have the clarity around your niche, your messaging, how to sell, what process you should take your clients through to go from interested on Instagram to sitting down with you for the first session, it's not going to click, right? And so you do need to make sure that you are getting that support, whether it's from me or somebody else, whether it's from, a colleague or just you sitting down and like diving deep on your own. But you need to make sure that your messaging is super, super clear, that your niche is super, super clear. Because if you're posting consistently and not getting results, it's pretty much always one of those two things. Your messaging is not clear enough, or you're not selling enough, right? Or there's something like missing in that sort of funnel process of selling to get people to actually work with you. Okay, now last thing I want to share is like how learning marketing can really sort of help you to put things into action and get results faster. So I shared in the beginning of this episode how I had posted every single day on Sit with Kelly for 3 months, over 100 times before I got a single client, right? I shared how it took me 12 months to go from 0 to 10K followers. And at that time, I was brand new to marketing, right? I had not done marketing before. I didn't have a niche. I had never posted on Instagram and I had no following. Nobody knew who I was. I had no friends in private practice. So I was really, really, really starting from scratch in terms of building a community. Now, I started my second Instagram page, Business of Therapy, in December 2023, I believe. Yes. And that grew a lot faster for a few reasons, right? So I grew from 0 to 30,000 followers in like 15 months. And results happen much, much, much quicker. And the reason why is a few things. So one, I knew marketing now, right? I had done this already. I knew how to create really good content. I understood how Instagram worked. I understood what was trending. I had been coaching therapists for a long time. Like I kind of knew what I was doing already. Secondly, I knew my niche and it was really clear on my messaging. So I didn't have to go through this sort of like figure it out period, experimenting period to see what was going to land or who did I want to talk to or what did I want to talk about or how can I be more specific here. I came in and was specific from the jump. I also had authority, right? People knew me already. A lot of people followed me on Sit with Kelly and came over and followed me on Business of Therapy. A lot of therapists had already worked with me inside of PPA or in the Reels membership by the time that I created my second Business of Therapy account. And so there was already like trust built with people. I wasn't starting from scratch. And that is super, super important because I think one of the reasons why it took me so long to get my first client from Instagram is because I had not even like started my Instagram page, right? So nobody knew who I was. Nobody already came in liking me or feeling connected to me. And I think that that's a big difference. Like oftentimes when I see therapists join PPA and they have success in their first month, it's because they were already posting on Instagram for several months and they had, people following them who didn't know how to work with them, who weren't super clear on like who their niche was, who didn't know that next step to take. We were able to make a few tweaks and then that existing audience converted. Right? If you're starting from scratch and you don't have an existing audience, people don't have a few months already under their belt of warming up to you, it might take a little more time and that's okay. I also felt like with Business of Therapy, it was a lot easier. My definition of consistency shifted quite a bit. So with Sit with Kelly, I posted every single day. With Business of Therapy, I certainly did not. I posted like 3 to 5 times a week, and that felt really good. But I already like my content was already good from the jump. So I didn't need to like put in the reps of let me learn, let me figure it out, let me put out as much content as I can so I can have as many opportunities to go viral and to build my audience. I was instead able to focus more on like higher quality content versus just volume. And higher quality doesn't need to be anything fancy or complicated. If you go through my Instagram page, especially Business of Therapy, sometimes I have like a little more creative fun with Sit with Kelly and try and like do a little bit of fancier edits or whatever. But my content on Business of Therapy is not like fancy content. It's not influencer style content. It's really either me talking to the camera, me lip syncing, or very simple B-roll with some text on top. But really good content means it's engaging. There's movement in it. The messaging is clear. The sound is trending, right? That is super doable to create. You don't need to be very fancy at doing it. It's something that you can learn and follow a process that I will set up for you. The other thing that I think is always interesting is I actually get way more brand partnerships on Business of Therapy than Sit with Kelly. And I think that it's because my messaging is so much more specific there, right? So if a company knows that they are working with therapists in private practice, like I am it, right? Like my audience is so niche down and it's so specific. Whereas on Sit with Kelly, I am a little more broad, right? Like I'm working with anxious millennials, but I'm not taking new clients. So I'm also bringing in kind of more pieces of my life. I share about my dog Josie. I share about being like a pregnant first time mom to be. I share a little bit of like relationship stuff with my husband. I share a little bit of like body image and confidence stuff. It's a little like all over the place, right? And so there's less specificity there in my messaging. And that sort of like doesn't lend itself as well for brand partnerships. And that's okay. Like I'm fine with that. That feels like a good, creative, fun outlet to me. But it is just like really telling of you don't always need to like broaden more in order to get results. Oftentimes, like actually being more specific, even if it really narrows down, like how do I put this? Like on Sit with Kelly, I could work with almost any brand, right? Like I could find a way to incorporate almost any brand into that content. But because of that, I'm less of like a hell yes for these specific brands. Whereas on Business of Therapy, there's very limited brands that I can work with that would fit well into my content. But for them, they're like, yes, you make perfect sense 100%. We are all in. Let's pay your full rate. Let's go. Right. And so that specificity can really create much, much, much better results for your business. So if you are feeling like if I niche down too much, if I get too specific and like exactly what type of trauma I'm going to work with or what stage of motherhood, or what flavor of anxiety, please know that you might actually get much better results in terms of clients, audience growth, brand partnerships by doing that, right? It's really the opposite effect of what you sort of expect. Okay, so that is all for today's episode. Just to kind of recap, I really, really, really want to validate that if you are somebody who's been posting consistently and you haven't gotten the results that you've wanted, I understand how frustrating that can be. You are not alone. And I really hope that you take today's episode to reflect and think about what do you need to do differently and what support do you need to make that happen, right? Do you need to niche down more and get more clear on your messaging? If so, how are you going to do that? Do you need to actively sell more in your content? If so, how are you going to do that, right? And if you want support, I would absolutely love to support you with both of those things inside of Private Practice Academy. And I am wishing you all of the best.